All right, so today, as this video goes live, it will officially be day 90 with the Unfolded Circle Remote 3. So I've had a lot of time to live with it. It's been the main control piece of my system, at least since I put up my shootout against the Harmony Elite, where I did, after that video, take the Harmony Elite down. It is decommissioned from my system. This has been the only control mechanism I've been using since that video, which I think is going on a couple months now. So this is giving me a good time for, the rose tinted glasses to kind of wear off, and the excitement of it being something new. Now it's still new, but it's just an everyday part of my kit, my home theater use. So it gives me another kind of perspective, and you get to the point where you kind of just expect everything to work the way you need it to, and some of the bugs, some of the hiccups don't get as forgiven, because now it's not really just this cool new toy, if you get what I mean. So I feel like it's a good time to kind of go on the record, state my thoughts, the things that I love about it, the things that really maybe I didn't see potentially as an issue, and things like that. I have a whole script here basically that I have kind of detailed out how I feel. So I actually really do want to talk about what I love about it first, because you'll see kind of the back half of this video are just things, hiccups that I've ran into, and I want to start, foremost, that this really isn't, there's not really another solution out there like this yet. There are some, but again, I mean, it's the closest thing to getting some form of home automation remote system, especially if you're already invested in Home Assistant, which we'll talk about later. When everything is working with this remote, it really does feel like it takes my theater into the future. A lot of the time, the integrations over IP are really snappy, really responsive. Again, we got Jesse Eisenberg today on the remote, but it's awesome. The remote is really snappy. I don't directly have a remote 2 to compare it to that people say it is an improvement from the processing, especially maybe the web configurator I've heard. I love the way it feels. I still really am a fan of just how it feels. It feels robust. I've grown more on kind of the softer feel of the buttons, the less clicky, but it's still very tactile. Even after a few months, those buttons still give me some response back that I do like. And overall, I mean, I'm enjoying it a lot. There are a lot of consistent updates that do feel like they fix issues that most of the community are experiencing. There was a firmware update a couple months ago that fixed one of the major charging issues with the dock. And since then, charging has been much more reliable. I found myself not having to reset my dock as much. Certain issues with certain disconnects, battery life, all are getting improved with these regular software updates, and I do like that. There's one every couple weeks at the worst, and so I feel like there's a relatively solid frequency of updates that come out for the software and for the remote and the docks. All right, so now I want to talk about, I don't necessarily want to call it the bad. I want to call it the hiccups, the growing pains that come with understanding the type of product that I got, right? But I do have issues where sometimes integrations, they do just decide to stop working. Before this latest release that I'll put in the description, the version title, it would lose connection to my dock all the time. And on previous updates, it didn't. So with a lot of these updates that I said earlier, is good that they're consistent. There do seem to be some regressions with certain software features. It still just doesn't necessarily always work every time I need it to. Like I said, I did decommission the Harmony because I thought it was there. But as I tried to do more with the remote, which you'll hear me talk about a little bit later, you do kind of realize that it's not quite there just yet if you're not using Home Assistant. And so, again, I have to kind of preface a lot of this that I'm still not setting up Home Assistant yet. Again, the first 90 days, it wasn't necessarily an arbitrary number like that, but just more so, I did really want to commit to just using just the remote. I don't have any smart home aside from the lighting that you've seen me talk about on the channel. So I felt it was a good entry point for me to just really see what I could get the most out of this remote. And I've seemed to have pretty much tapped that. There's definitely just issues, and sometimes you'll need consistent access to the web configurator to be able to make a change, to reconnect an integration, things like that. It's my own fault for essentially completely relying on the Remote 3 as my control system, but issues with the dock connection or certain integrations failing, they've left my theater inoperable for my girlfriend or just guests. If I'm not there, if I'm not able to VPN home and jump into the web configurator, I either have to walk them through that or just tell them to use a different TV in the house until then. One of the most kind of aggravating things about the remote are if any of your integrations, entities in your startup sequence fail, the entire activity fails. Even if it can get 4 out of 5 of the way there, and the last thing is maybe a lighting command. If that lighting command fails, your entire activity will not fail. I understand why it was probably developed this way, but I really would like to just have a beta feature that will just skip any associated commands with the integration that's failing, because it just makes it so that I can't even access my theater. It's been pretty frustrating, and it'd be interesting to be able to bypass that, have it as a super beta feature, give a disclaimer, but it would be really nice. I would turn that on so that I could still get access to the devices that are at least working. And then again, if they don't need to do light control, things like that, you'll see why I'm bringing up the light control, but it's really been the biggest kind of nitpick that I've seen. From there, I'm kind of do a follow-up to the Hue integration. So this is a mix of a few issues, but I do feel like when I made my Hue integration video, the UC software on the remote was more stable than the very next couple updates that have really seemed to cause some issues. Again, we still don't have any scene control. The color control doesn't work. And it really seems to be the only device in my house that needs regular reconnections with my Hue bridge, where I have to actually go and physically press the button on the Hue bridge and then set up the integration again. It loses connection. And again, this is my fault, and I could easily bypass this by making a change to my configuration. But in my startup, if you've seen in the Hue video, the first thing it does is turn on the lights in my theater or turn them off at the end of an activity. And so again, it basically will fail on step 1 if that integration loss happens, and it happens quite often. So I do understand that most people are probably just using Home Assistant if they've dug into any type of lighting control, and I understand that. Again, I just do think it could be slightly more functional. At the same time, I know they have a bucket list of bug fixes and other items that I would probably agree require more development time, to more development spend than fixing a Hue integration, where I'm probably like one of the 1% people that don't use Home Assistant yet. And I will. It's going to happen, and that should probably fix a lot of those issues. But again, this is going to be retail a $500 remote on its own. I don't imagine every single person that buys this is going to have Home Assistant. They're going to be like me and kind of start exploring that. Maybe they've got a handful of Philips lights. It depends. But again, Home Assistant's not necessarily expensive from a monetary value, but it could be from a time perspective. And again, that would be kind of the idea, is to just have something like this that is easy and clean. But again, Home Assistant's clearly my next upgrade to get that up and running, and hopefully have a better experience with some of those startup sequences and be able to do even more interesting things with the lighting in my house as well. All right, so now I want to talk about probably what most people are talking about this remote, the biggest issue that people are experiencing. It's that battery and that sleep Wi-Fi reconnection time. Everyone has varying length that it takes to reconnect. Some people have all of their activities set to automatically sleep, and it can wake and connect no problem. It's very network dependent, it seems. I have not really had any luck switching Wi-Fi bands. Everything that this remote could potentially talk to is on a static IP, and I still get those reconnection issues. And so what I've done is I got sick of it. So I turned off the main activity here. We're going to jump into the configurator here. So I went to my activity, and I went to the activities where I'm most often interacting with the remote, like my Watch TV, Apple TV, and I set it to prevent sleep here. So now this actually really improved the response times. I loved it, just being able to go and something got too loud. Whoops, I can just turn down the volume and it responds instantly. Maybe I'm done watching a show on Netflix and I don't want it to autoplay, so I can back out, or I do want to skip an intro and it's all responsive. How amazing. But the battery life is now horrible. It's really awful, especially if I am watching Apple TV all day. It can last maybe 4 to 5 hours. And then we get more out of it because we've just been conditioned that, like, okay, maybe we just have a show on that's just going to run for, an hour or two while we're doing something else, working on stuff. We'll just dock the remote. We've just gotten really good at, behaviorally just docking the remote. And then for things like, when I'm playing Switch 2, I don't have it preventing sleep there. I'm a little bit more okay with willing to wait for that. We do end up doing quite a bit of gaming in the theater room, so it does work for that. But this is still not really a good solution, that it just dies so fast now. Apparently there is a firmware update that will allow Wi-Fi to stay connected when it's sleeped. Apparently this is a feature that was already possible on Remote 2, and it didn't launch yet on Remote 3, which has kind of been its biggest downfall. So like I said, I know people that have pre-ordered back in July that are now receiving these, so I'm really hoping that an update like that, really the biggest thing that's still holding this remote back, will be fixed and corrected going forward, because that'll help a lot. Again, I just don't really feel like the software is quite ready yet for like a public mass release, but I know they're working hard at it. Again, I understood this is a Kickstarter project, but it's really not anymore. There's now people purchasing and getting shipping orders in for non-Kickstarter, so that excuse kind of goes away. Again, I'm still really happy with it. Like I said, to my first point, when it works really well. It really does make it feel like I'm in the future, and I love using it. And it does work most of the time, but it really does find the most inconvenient times to lose connection to an integration, or really that's kind of the biggest thing, or lose connection to the dock, where now I can't issue any of my infrared commands as well. So there's good and bad. Again, I feel like this video is kind of mostly negative, but it's really not about the negative side. It's just I want to be transparent about what it's like to live with this device, and make people have better purchasing decisions. Again, if you are still interested, I say buy it, man. I still don't think there's another remote out there that feels this nice, is this cool when it's working. Yeah, there are problems, but again, hardware is here. Like I said, they're pretty consistent at updating firmware updates, and specifically addressing things that the community talks about as well. So overall, it still gets my recommendation. It is a good product here, especially given all the circumstances around it. It did take a while for it to really get here. But again, my experience, even having to send it back, get it back, that's all been quite smooth. So given all of that, I mean, this still gets my recommendation. I still really do think that if you're willing to give it a chance, or use it side by side with your existing controller solution until it becomes more stable, I think it's worth your time. I think it's worth your investment. I just want to be clear. Lighting for Philips Hue, you probably want to have that baked in a different solution. You probably definitely don't want to have it part of your startup sequences like I have it here. See, theater lights on is the first thing that starts up, and this can cause a lot of issues. I'll show in post what it looks like here, or probably would have shown it already. Very frustrating, but again, some of the latest firmware updates really have been making it a lot smoother as well. So yeah, 2.6.12 is what I'm on here. This one has been more stable than the last one in terms of dock reconnection, but on this firmware currently, I do still sometimes lose connection to my integration for my Philips Hue. And again, as you've seen, it's the first thing to start up. But outside of that, again, I think this is a good solution. I think they're going to continue to work on it. And look at that, we even have a new update available for my docks, so I'll go get that pushed out as well. And yeah, thanks for checking out the video again, guys. Let me know in the comments what you think. Have seen a handful of you saying that you have ordered one, or some of you have seen my videos that it's actually kept you from doing so. So I appreciate that, what I'm doing helps you kind of come to what makes sense for your own financials, your own system as well. But ultimately, I still do feel passionate about this remote. I will probably, again, not really talk too much about it until maybe another giant firmware update revision, or when I do get set up with Home Assistant. We got some cool things coming up in the pipeline. I may potentially start kind of doing some other tech reviews as well. I did end up acquiring a iPhone 17 Pro Max, so definitely want to make tons of content on this. Really like this device. Going to do some traveling with it, really lean on the cameras as well, and probably do some videos only produced on that as well. But you'll see that when we get there. Thanks again. Feel free to drop a subscription, drop a comment, let me know what you think, and let's get to talking about it. Appreciate it. We'll catch you guys soon in the next one.